Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, we're going to break down the two-game Monday Night Football slate on Draftkings and Yahoo. Both sites are running two-game slate for this Monday night doubleheader. Draftkings in particular running out huge contests once again for this two-game slate. $2.25 million contest with $1 million to first place. Plus, they're throwing in a $100K first touchdown bonus. And if you don't know what that is, if you're playing in this contest, pretty much if you have the player that scores the first touchdown in both games, you get to split that $100K prize pool. Obviously, if two very high-owned players score the first touchdown, then you're not going to make much money. You're probably going to make only a couple dollars. But if someone that's really low-owned and you have them, if they're really low-owned and they score the first touchdown, you could definitely actually be winning a decent amount of money. Let's say, I don't know, someone like, I'm trying to think, someone who's going to be low owned, like Andy Isabella. Let's say Andy Isabella scores the first touchdown in the night game, and then let's say, Isaiah McKenzie scores the first touchdown in the Chiefs-Bills game. Like, if you have both those two guys in your lineup, which, obviously it's very unlikely those are the two guys that score the first touchdown, but if you have both them in your lineup, like, you could be looking at a really big payday. Me personally, I don't try and build out my lineups to try and chase the bonus. I just build out my lineups how I do, and if I have the two guys that score the first touchdown, then so be it. It is just something cool that Draftkings is adding to this contest. 100K first touchdown bonus, also going in with $2.25 million in total prizes. Huge contest, man. I mean, so excited for these two-game slates. I love playing these two gamers. Definitely prefer to play these over showdown slates. I just feel like there's more of an edge in these two-game slates than in showdown. They're just more fun to sweat as well. We do have two really good games on Monday night, Chiefs-Bills and Cardinals-Cowboys. Both games should be pretty high scoring. Both games should be close as well. We'll definitely take a look at this slate, though, position by position, quarterback through tight end. We'll talk about all the playable options like we always do, the guys I have the most interest in. Just before we do get started, guys, as always, I would appreciate it if you would hit that like button down below. And if you are new to the channel here, be sure to hit that subscribe button as well. Click the notification bell too, so that way you never miss out on any of my new videos. You get notified every time I do upload a new video. And if you are regular here, if you do really enjoy these YouTube videos, if they really help you and you want to get more content from me, I have stuff available on Patreon that you can check out, link down below in the description. It is obviously optional, but for those of you that aren't interested, the Patreon is linked down below. You can see all that I do have to offer over there. But let's go ahead and take a look at this two-game slate. We will start off at quarterback. So our four options here are Patrick Mahomes, Kyler Murray, Josh Allen, and Andy Dalton. For me, I think, I'm going to be trying to fit in one of Mahomes, Murray, or Allen. I don't really see myself going cheap with Andy Dalton. Not saying that Andy Dalton's going to be a terrible play or he's going to, just go out there and suck, but I just don't think he has the upside that these three guys above him have. I would not be surprised if you see Mahomes, Murray, and Allen all put up over 30 DraftKings points. And I just think it's very unlikely that you get, you're not going to get that from Andy Dalton. I really don't see myself going cheap at quarterback. I think this is a position I will definitely be looking to spend up at. For me, it comes down to Mahomes or Murray. I think those are the two guys I have the most interest in. Normally it's always going to be Patrick Mahomes for me, just because I think he has the most upside. He's the most consistent. His floor is just so high, especially in this Chiefs offense. Like, this is a Chiefs team that wants to throw the ball, 40 times a game. They're not a very run-heavy team. They get Le'Veon Bell, but I don't think Le'Veon Bell is going to be ready for this game. Maybe we'll see them, use Le'Veon in the running game more when he gets there, but he's not going to be ready for this game. I expect this Chiefs team to once again be very pass-heavy. Even when they get up big, like, they will still throw the ball plenty, especially when they're getting in the goal line. Like, they're not handing it off to Clyde Edwards-Helaire near the goal line. They're actually letting Mahomes, throw it. They're doing, like, touch passes to Tyreek Hill. Like, Mahomes just has so much upside in this explosive offense. The Bills have a solid defense, but I don't really worry too much about matchup when it comes to a guy like Patrick Mahomes, who just has so much upside. I mean, he could legit go for 40 DraftKings points, and you would not be surprised. I think this game, both these games are very likely to shoot out. This one between the Chiefs and Bills has a 57 total right now. The Cardinals-Cowboys game has a 55 total. We should see two pretty high-scoring games. I think I do prefer Patrick Mahomes over Kyler Murray. I like Kyler, though. We'll talk about him in a second, but I do like Mahomes on Yahoo as well. He's $1 more than Kyler Murray. I think if I can find that extra dollar, I do prefer to get up to Patrick Mahomes. Usually it's always going to be Mahomes for me. If he's ever on a slate and I'm trying to pay up at quarterback, normally he's going to be the guy that I do want to pay up for. But it's hard to argue with what Kyler Murray's done so far this season. I mean, he's been incredibly consistent as well, giving you at least 24 DraftKings points in every game, a ton of rushing upside. Like, we've seen Kyler Murray go for, 70, 80 rushing yards, can get you a rushing touchdown. They're using him a lot near the goal line as well. They're letting him run the ball in. They're running a lot of read options, letting Kyler get rushing touchdowns. It's a fantastic matchup for him against the Cowboys defense that hasn't been able to stop anyone so far this season. This game is very likely to shoot out as well. I like the spot a ton for Kyler Murray. I think I feel a little bit better about Patrick Mahomes just because I feel like his floor is just so high. His ceiling is so high as well. But Kyler has been awesome this season. He should be able to torch this Cowboys defense. I definitely like Kyler as well at 7,300. If I'm playing two lineups on this on this two-game slate, I would definitely have Mahomes in one and then Kyler in another. If I'm playing multiple lineups, though, I would probably mix in Mahomes, Murray, and Josh Allen. I do like Josh Allen as well. I think there is upside for him against this KC team in a likely shootout. He was bad last week against Tennessee, but I would expect him to bounce back this week. I mean, Josh Allen, he's another guy that's just shown a ton of upside this season. He's been one of the best QBs so far for fantasy. Even after his 18-point game last week, I'm pretty sure he's still like a top 5 fantasy QB this season. I mean, he's just been so good. This KC defense is pretty good. They've been pretty good so far this season. But this game it's likely to shoot out. It has a very high total. On a two-game slate, you're not going to say that Josh Allen is a bad play because, he's definitely not. I just think I prefer Mahomes over him. I would prefer Kyler Murray over him as well. Josh Allen would be my third favorite quarterback. Like, I would definitely rank the quarterbacks how they are in salary. Mahomes 1, Murray 2, Allen 3, and then Andy Dalton 4. The only reason I would even consider playing Andy Dalton is just because he's so cheap. And, at 5,200, if you play him, you're going to be able to pay up for maybe an extra expensive receiver. Like, you'll be able to get up from, you'll be able to go from Stephon Diggs to DeAndre Hopkins. So if that's something that interests you, I guess you could play Andy Dalton. It is a good matchup. The Cardinals defense is not one I'm too concerned about. This game should be, very high scoring, as I said earlier. I just don't think that Andy Dalton has the upside that some of these other guys have. If it was a different slate, maybe I'd be on Andy Dalton, but when you have Patrick Mahomes, Kyler Murray, and Josh Allen as your other three options, I just don't really see any need to, pay down for Andy Dalton when you can just get these very high upside QBs. So that's my thoughts at QB. Moving on to running back, I think running back is pretty straightforward. Anytime you have these two-game slates, a lot of times it's going to be pretty clear where you need to go at running back, and I think that's the case here. I think you're definitely going to be jamming in Ezekiel Elliott. I don't really see any way you get away from him. Even though he's expensive, he's a guy I want to try and build around. $7,700 on DK, $35 on Yahoo. Definitely like Zeke on the slate. I mean, really hard not to like him. When you just look at the other options you have at running back, if you're not playing Zeke, then your other options are Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who I do like as well. We'll talk about him. Devin Singletary, I'm a bit worried about. He didn't look great last week. Zach Moss is off the injury report, so Zach Moss is going to be back for this game. Have some concerns with Singletary. Kenyon Drake I do have interest in just because of how much volume he's getting, but he has not looked good at all this season as well. He's been very inefficient with his touches. So I think at running back, you're probably just going to play Zeke and Clyde Edwards-Helaire and then move on. I don't want to get too cute at this position. Zeke for me is just a lock and load. Probably I would play him in every single lineup. Even if I was playing 100 lineups, I would probably just lock button Zeke. Very hard for him to fail in this Cowboys offense just with how much they use him. In the passing game, he still gets a ton of work. Now that Andy Dalton's at quarterback, you obviously have to downgrade, pretty much everyone in this Cowboys offense a little bit, but this Cowboys offense they still have a ton of weapons. You have Zeke, you have Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, CeeDee Lamb. Dalton has some weapons to work with. We know Zeke's going to be on the field a ton. He's going to get 20-plus touches. Even if they get behind, they will involve Zeke a ton in the passing game. His floor is just so high. At $7,700, he's somewhat expensive, but honestly, not expensive enough. I think you're just jamming in Zeke and kind of moving on. I don't really want to get too cute at running back. I think running back is pretty straightforward for this two-game slate. The next running back I do like is Clyde Edwards-Helaire. $6K on DK, $23 on Yahoo. Pretty affordable on both sides. Pretty easy to get in. So obviously, the Chiefs did sign Le'Veon Bell, but he is not going to be available for this game. Most likely he will be available next week. I'm not sure who they play next week, but I don't think he's going to be able to practice until Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. So it's still going to be the Clyde Edwards-Helaire show for one more week. He hasn't been great lately. I'll definitely admit that. He had a really good week one against Houston, 25 carries, 138 rushing yards. But since then, he really hasn't done much. He hasn't been too efficient either. He's very involved, though, in both sides of the game. Like, he'll get carries. He gets a ton of work in the passing game as well. Like, if I had to project his touches, I would say he probably gets anywhere from 10 to 13 carries and probably gets anywhere from 6 to 7 targets. I mean, he's going to get most likely around 20 touches. This Bills team, they have a solid defense, but they've been able, like, you can run on this Bills team. I'm pretty sure they're without some of their defensive guys as well. I think Trey White, he missed last week. He's going to be questionable for this game. Last time I saw, I think one of their starting linebackers is questionable as well. He might even be out. Honestly, I can't remember, but it's a 2-game slate with no really other standout options. I think, running back, I don't want to get too cute. I'm just going to play Zeke. I'm going to play Clyde Edwards-Helaire and kind of move on. If you wanted to play Singletary, I don't mind that, but because Zach Moss is back, I'm definitely a little bit concerned with Singletary. Plus, TJ Yeldon looked really good last week, and TJ Yeldon was actually pretty involved. So, bit concerned about Singletary. Kenyon Drake, I guess if I had to play one guy, not Zeke, not CEH, like if you wanted to get off of one of those two, I would probably play Kenyon Drake just because he gets so much volume. He only got one target last week. He still got 19 touches. Wasn't very efficient, though. Just averaged 3.3 yards per carry. Did get into the end zone. We haven't gotten a big game yet from Kenyon Drake, and he's been probably one of the biggest disappointments so far this season in fantasy. Like, a lot of people in season long were taking him like in the first round, and he's been really, really disappointing. But he's still getting the touches, man. Week 1, let me see. Week 1, he got 18 touches, 22 touches, 19 touches. Only got 13 against Carolina, but I believe he might have gotten injured in that game. Honestly, I can't remember. And then 19 touches against the Jets. He's going to get probably anywhere from 18 to 20 touches. His volume in the passing game is obviously a huge concern. Like, he's not getting 6, 7, 8 targets like I thought he would get. He's only gotten a max of 2 targets a game so far this season. 2, 2, 1, 0, and 1. Like, those are obviously not good numbers at all. But he's 4,800. He's a starting running back. He's going to get probably 20 touches. I mean, if you want to go to him, I don't mind that at all. I think playing him like in the flex makes plenty of sense. Me, though, I'm going to be jamming in Zeke. I'm going to be jamming in CEH and then just kind of figuring out the rest of my build. So that's kind of my thoughts at running back. Let's go ahead and move on to the receiver position. So at the top of receiver, DeAndre Hopkins, most expensive receiver, and for good reason. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins has been so good this season, and he gets a fantastic matchup here against the Cowboys. The Cowboys secondary, they really don't have anyone that's going to slow down DeAndre Hopkins. He's going to be a usage monster, going to get massive volume, probably anywhere from 10 to 12 targets. I would say is a pretty good projection for him. Last week, he only got 7 targets, but he still managed to turn that into 6 catches for 131 yards and a touchdown. Like, he just has such a high floor in this explosive Cardinals offense. Like, the spot's fantastic for DeAndre Hopkins. It's just a matter of if you can fit him in or not. I think given how thin the running back position is, I would rather pay for Zeke than Hopkins. But if I can find a way to fit in maybe Zeke and Hopkins together, I'll be trying to do that. But it is going to be tough, especially if you're playing Mahomes at quarterback. Like, I think the only way you're going to be able to get Zeke and Hopkins in together is probably to pay down for Andy Dalton. Like, and I don't know if I really want to do that. I guess you can maybe play like 2 really cheap receivers, and then that could allow you to get to Hopkins. But there's some good options in this 5K range that I really like. So I like Hopkins a lot. It's just at his price, he's going to be tough to get in with all the other expensive guys that I prefer on this slate. Tyreek Hill at 6,700. If Tre'Davious White somehow misses this game, I know he missed last week. I think he's questionable here. I'm not sure if he would shadow Hill or not. I can't remember if he shadowed the last time these teams played. Still, Tyreek Hill's just such an explosive receiver. They move him all around the field. I really don't get too worried about matchup when it comes to a guy like Tyreek Hill. They're going to find ways to get him the ball. He just has so much upside. Like, he's a guy that I always have interest in, no matter what the matchup is. Now, how good or how bad the matchup is, I'm always going to have interest in Tyreek Hill. He is $1,200 less than Hopkins, so I think that makes plenty of sense to drop down from Hopkins to Tyreek Hill. Sure, Hopkins probably projects better, but would I be surprised if Hill outscores him? Not really, and no Sammy Watkins for the Chiefs here. He is doubtful. He's not expected to play. Maybe that just boosts Tyreek Hill, his target floor even more with Watkins out. I definitely like Tyreek Hill. I think I do prefer Hill over Stephon Diggs. I know Stephon Diggs has been really good so far this season. He's 6,200. Like, he's definitely affordable. I think I would just rather go to Tyreek Hill. I think I like the upside that Hill gives me. But Diggs is definitely in play without a doubt. I mean, he's been so good this season, coming off a game where he got 16 targets, against Tennessee. I think a lot of that had to do with John Brown being out. John Brown, questionable for this game, but it looks like if I had to guess, I would say John Brown will play here. So I don't think we're going to see 16 targets again for Stephon Diggs, but he's a very explosive receiver. He's going to get volume. I just can't play everyone, so I think if I had to choose one between like Diggs or Hill, I'd probably rather go Hill. When it comes to like Diggs or CeeDee Lamb, I think I would rather go Diggs there. I am a bit worried about some of these Cowboys receivers. We'll talk about Amari Cooper. I just think Amari Cooper is too cheap, but CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, I am a bit worried about those two guys, especially with Andy Dalton at quarterback. I think you do have to downgrade those two a little bit. Michael Gallup's the one I'm probably the most concerned with, just because he hasn't been great at all this season. He had one big game against Seattle. I think that was week 3 against Seattle, a big game week 3, and really hasn't done much since then. He's been outplayed by CeeDee Lamb so far this season. So if I have to play any Cowboys receivers, it's going to be Lamb and it's going to be Cooper. And I think given Amari Cooper's price tag, he's my favorite Cowboys receiver here. In my opinion, he's obviously still the number one receiver. I know he had a bad week last week against the Giants. Dak getting hurt, Andy Dalton coming in as the quarterback now is obviously a downgrade for Amari Cooper, but he's still such a high upside receiver. So good at home as well. I think that's one thing you need to note. Like Amari Cooper, his home and road splits, since he's been with the Cowboys, he has always been much better at home. I really like him here at $5,500. I just think he's way too cheap, man. He should be priced up there with Tyreek Hill, with DeAndre Hopkins. The fact that he's only $5,500, he was one of the guys that really stood out to me when I first looked at this slate. I just thought Cooper was way too cheap on Draftkings, and even on Yahoo, they priced him down over there as well. He's $23. He's coming in cheaper than both Lamb. He's only $3 more than Michael Gallup. I definitely like Amari Cooper on both sides. I think the price tag really makes him, one of the best receiver plays in my opinion. He's still the number one for this Cowboys team. Even coming off a bad week, I would expect Cooper to bounce back here. Will he see Patrick Peterson? It's a possibility, but at this point, I'm not too worried about Patrick Peterson, especially with such a talented receiver like Amari Cooper, who can just, find ways to get open no matter who's on him. Really like Cooper in that 5K range. And then talking about value, we actually have some good value at receiver. Plenty of guys under 5K that are playable in my opinion. Christian Kirk, I think at $4,500 is definitely a guy you can look to. He was disappointing the first few weeks of the season, but he has definitely looked better the last 2 weeks. 3 catches, 19 yards, and a touchdown against the Panthers. Last week against the Jets, 5 catches, 78 yards on 7 targets. Volume's been trending up, which is what we like to see. Now he gets a really good matchup and a great game environment against the Cowboys. I think at $4,500, Christian Kirk is for sure in play as a cheap receiver. Mecole Hardman, I like a ton here at $4,200. With Sammy Watkins doubtful, I think Hardman is going to step in as the number 2 receiver for the Chiefs. I think he's going to play a ton. He's going to be on the field way more than he normally would. And this is a guy that I've always had interest in just because he's so fast. He just has so much upside, so much big play ability, and we know Patrick Mahomes likes to sling the ball deep. I'm sure Mecole Hardman's going to get at least a few deep balls thrown his way. $4,200, I like him a lot. I think he has a ton of upside for this salary, and with no Watkins, that just makes me feel even more confident in Mecole Hardman. Normally, he's a guy I'm not very confident in just because the Chiefs don't play him a ton. He's not on the field a ton. His snaps aren't where they should be, in my opinion. He doesn't play the same amount that, Sammy Watkins and Tyreek Hill do. But now with Sammy Watkins out, I'm expecting Hardman to be on the field way more, to play more snaps, to probably see a few more targets. And at $4,200, I like him a lot as a cheap receiver. He's very cheap on Yahoo as well. He's only $15 over there. So as a value receiver, there's plenty of cheap options. I think Mecole Hardman is one of my favorites at $4,200. And assuming he plays, I think John Brown at $4K is definitely a viable option as well. He's listed as questionable, but I'm going to assume that he plays here. I thought he was going to play last week. It was kind of surprising to see him inactive last week. I'm assuming that John Brown plays, and at $4K, in my opinion, that's just too cheap for John Brown. When this guy's healthy, he is a very good receiver. He's been good so far this season. Was really good weeks 1 and 2, 19 and 18 DraftKings points against the Jets and against Miami. Not sure what happened week 3 against the Rams. I think he might have got hurt that week. Only 2 targets, 0 catches. Week 4 against the Raiders, 4 catches for 42 yards on 5 targets. His volume is obviously not as secure as a guy like Stephon Diggs, but, you're not paying that hefty price tag for him. He's only $4K. This was a guy we were paying, in the 5s for on the main slate. Whenever John Brown would be on the main slate, he would be like $5K, $5,500. For only $4K, as a cheap option, I definitely like John Brown here. I think, this Bills team is probably going to be playing from behind. We're probably going to have to see them lean on the passing game a little bit more than they normally would. Right now they are 4.5 point road or 4.5 point home underdogs. So I definitely like John Brown, assuming he does play. For 4K, I think he is a really good value. If he doesn't play, if he's out again, I think Gabriel Davis makes a good replacement for 3,500. Last week without John Brown, you did see Gabriel Davis get 9 targets, 5 catches for 58 yards. I think, obviously if Brown's out again, Davis would be a guy I would definitely consider at 3,500. But if Brown plays, I like him the most at 4K. I don't think there's really anyone else, though, that I want to go to under 4K. I don't really want to play Larry Fitzgerald. He just hasn't been getting it done so far this season. Sure, he could, catch a touchdown, could put up 12, 13 DK points, but there's just other guys I'd rather play. I'd rather get up to Hardman. If Brown plays, I would rather play John Brown. I'd rather get up to Christian Kirk if I can as well. Really don't see myself going to anyone under 4K. Maybe Demarcus Robinson sees more playing time with Sammy Watkins out, but if I'm going to target a Chiefs receiver with Watkins out, I think Hardman's the guy that I like most there. So yeah, I think we covered receiver, talked about, the guys I like most at receiver. Now tight end is pretty straightforward for me. The Bills, they don't really involve their tight ends much. The Cardinals don't really involve their tight ends much. So I think you have 2 playable options here, at least just in my opinion. You're either paying up for Travis Kelce or you're going to go with Dalton Schultz as a cheap option. I don't really want to play Tyler Kroft. I don't really want to play Dan Arnold. Even with Dawson Knox out, I still don't want to play Tyler Kroft. So it's either Kelce or Schultz. Obviously, Kelce projects the best. He's the guy I would like to get in my lineups. But if I'm paying up for Patrick Mahomes, if I'm paying up for Zeke, if I'm playing CEH, if I'm playing Amari Cooper, it is going to be pretty tough to get in Travis Kelce. So I feel like most of my builds are going to have Dalton Schultz just because of the salary that he saves. For 4,300, there's still upside for Dalton Schultz at this salary. I'm obviously concerned now that Andy Dalton is the quarterback. I think that's a bump down for all these pass catchers. But Schultz should still be involved. With Blake Jarwin on IR, he's been their number 1 tight end, Schultz has. They've been using him a lot in the passing game. He's been getting pretty good volume. 10 targets, 6 targets, 8 targets. I know he only got 3 targets last week against the Giants, but I don't think that's really the normal for Schultz. I think we're going to see him be around, the 6 to 8 target range. They'll use him a lot in the red zone as well. I know he's had a few touchdowns this season. Yeah, he's already scored twice this season. At 4,300, at this point, you're pretty much just hoping he comes somewhere close to Kelce. If Kelce goes off for 30 fantasy points, you are most likely going to need Kelce. But let's say Kelce scores 18 and Schultz scores 12. There's a good chance you could see Schultz be in the winning lineup. I think, Tyler Kroft, I just don't see any upside in him. They just don't involve their tight ends. Buffalo really doesn't. Sure, Tyler Kroft could catch a touchdown near the red zone, but I don't really want to play Tyler Kroft. Dan Arnold, just not involved in this Cardinals offense. He could legit put up a 0. I don't really want to play Dan Arnold, so it's either Kelce or Schultz. Kelce's obviously the better play. It just comes down to your roster build. If you need to save some salary, I really have no problem dropping down from Kelce to Schultz just to save the money so you can, spend up elsewhere. So you can spend up at quarterback, running back, receiver. So yeah, I think that's it for tight end, guys. I think we covered the position here. Pretty straightforward. In my opinion, you really only have 2 playable options, and that's either Kelce or Schultz. So yeah, I think we covered it all, guys. Defense, I don't really want to talk too much about defense. I really, on these 2-game slates, defense is just so hard to predict anyway. I really will just play whatever defense fits into my lineup, even if that's the Bills at 2,300. I don't really care. I don't really care if I have 3 guys going against my defense on a 2-game slate. That doesn't really, bother me. So I don't want to spend too much time on defense. Just play whatever defense fits. I would say the Cardinals probably project the best because they're getting to face Andy Dalton. But, do you want to spend up on defense on a 2-game slate? Probably not. So, yeah, that's just my thoughts there, guys. I think we broke it all down, talked about each position. I hope you guys did enjoy this video. I really do appreciate you watching. If you did enjoy, just hit that like button before you get out of here. Hit the subscribe button as well. Be sure to click that notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload and you'll never miss out on any of my new videos. If you really do enjoy these videos and you want to get more content from me, I have stuff available on Patreon. You can check that out. Link down below in the description. You can see all that I do have to offer on Patreon if that does interest you. But I think we covered it all, guys. Best of luck on this 2-game slate. Hope you guys win some money. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next video. Good luck, guys. Peace.